Yes, your presentation is visible and you are also visible on screen.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
so welcome everyone from my side as well, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you for the invitation to this workshop. So, as mentioned, I'm a lecturer in the Management Studies at the Goldsmiths University of London, and today talk about how to mapping, or more specifically, review with bibliometric methods. Who might benefit from this presentation? Basically, anybody who's interested in conducting literature, even if you want to publish them, or getting into a specific field to help your research. So basically, you can use these bibliometric methods in two ways. First, to write literature reviews, and second, if you're getting into a new field that you don't know about, with these methods, it is very easy to conduct search and identify the most important in that field, right? So if you identify the most cited articles in a certain field, it'll give you a good start of what the conversations in this field are actually about, right? So what are bibliometric methods? So bibliometric, these are like co-citation analysis, bibliographic coupling, analysis, and these methods actually use citation as a reliable indicator of communication. So basically, all researchers, when they write scientific articles, they basically cite other articles, and that citation actually means that we are using that literature to research, and this means that literature is useful in some way for the research study that we're writing. When we aggregate these opinions, right? So I cite one article, the other scholars cite another article, and then we can actually aggregate all these opinions of various researchers. We can connections between the different words, actually draw maps of the field, and actually the structure of the literature that we're talking about. And the thing is that actually the number of publications in field is increasing, right? So for most of the fields, actually, it has become very difficult to conduct traditional structured literature review, especially if you don't focus on the one very specific theme within the research stream. So just to give you an example, for just corporate social responsibility, there was just last year there was like 900 articles published on corporate social responsibility. So this is basically, it is impractically possible to read, evaluate, and just and review all these articles with traditional methods, right? But on the other hand, you can use bibliometric methods to analyze this kind of literature. More data you have, the better. So a lot of this presentation is actually based on my organizational research methods article, Bibliometric Methods in Management and Education. This was published in Organizational Research Methods, and actually this aims to be a single source reference for bibliometric studies. Right? So, as I mentioned, in traditional narrative review, then these are always subject to questions, right? Whether the studies included are selected objectively, how did this researcher analyze? It is to some way subject to researcher bias, and this is always something that you can actually mitigate with bibliometric methods. These methods are quantitative, have some kind of data behind, and you can substantiate your claims much more than with traditional literature. So how to conduct this kind of reviews? So here's the flow for scientific math. This is the workflow basically that you can find in the bibliometric methods in management. So you start with the research design. So you start with a research question that you want to which method is the appropriate to address the research question. Then you go for selecting the data.
Professor Ivan, I am sorry to interrupt you, Professor Ivan. May I talk to you for a moment? I am getting feedback from the participants. Your voice is breaking. So can we do something about it? It's not very clear.
Not sure what to do. Is it?
So if you have any headphone, then you can use that.
I don't have, unfortunately. I'm not sure. Is this the connect or? One thing I can try. I have another microphone. I'm connecting it if this will, but I'm not sure. Do you clearly now hear me clearly or? Okay. What about now? Is this better?
Yes, sir. Yes, this one is.
Is now better?
Yes, it is.
Maybe it was the connection. Now I basically just turned off the camera and videos. So,
okay.
So if this is better, then let's continue this way.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. So we stopped at the science mapping workflow. So this is a 5-step workflow, and I think I did onto the data selection next. The stop in the flow is actually process, right? So you select which software to use, and right now you have some good options. The most option that I would recommend is actually Vosviewer is simple and user-friendly software for this. One thing that you can do with analysis, and this is identifying groups of research, right? So, you can apply various clustering algorithms to identify groups in the stream, and then you visualize those with some kind of network analysis of multidimensional scaling, and you have various that can help you with that. And finally, you have to interpret the data. In the classification is actually the part, and this is also the bar that will set you apart from how in the journal you can publish the bibliometric analysis. So let's talk about research questions. So methods actually are appropriate for 3 general kinds of questions. If you want to examine the intellectual structure of the literature, so the past, if you want to review the front, which is the present, so the of currently research, and if you want to produce some kind of social network structure of scholarly community. So, for example, you can use bibliometric methods to identify which authors actually publish together a lot, and then draw a social network structure of the authors in a specific community, and maybe which institutions, which countries these authors come from, and so on. The unit of analysis that you can use bibliometric methods can be on the level of document. With the document, we're meaning either research publications, an article, or a book, or any kind of other publication. Then you can do it on the level of author. So you can connect authors among them. You can do it on the level of journal. So you can draw a structure which journals are connected with other journals that are very topically close, or you can do it on the basis of keywords, right? So you can find word keyword structure of a specific research stream. This evolved basically over time. Most actually bibliometric studies out there are actually examining knowledge base. So there is not so much research front analysis, but there is more of this that examine the intellectual structure. So here's basically a comparison of two main bibliometric methods: co-citation and bibliographic coupling. So if you see, if you take a look at this graph, you can see that actually the for co-citation works on cited document. Right? So if I cite two different articles together in my paper, this means that that I'm writing a certain topic in my paper, and I basically think that these two documents are connected. Right? And if we put together many kind of these connections, if many authors actually cite two articles together, that means that these two articles are connected more strongly than if those occurrences are fewer. On the other hand, bibliographic coupling works on the overlapping of the reference lists. So, for example, if I write an article and I have 20 items in my reference list, and another person writes an article and their reference list overlaps with mine, for example, in 5 counts, that means that our publications are connected with a strength of 5. And the stronger this is, the stronger the connection is. If our reference lists don't overlap at all, that means that we're probably writing about completely different things. So here's an example of. This is what you see here is one co-citation, right? So article from Martin, Nightingale, and Yegros, and the article from McCain are actually connected. And if this, then these are this between much stronger. This is an example of so these are reference lists from the Zupic and Chater, and reference lists from 2016, and they overlap to some extent, right? So articles are cited in one the same as in other, right? That means these two articles are to some extent connected.
Participants are requested.
Hello.
If everybody mutes their microphone.
Yes, Dr. Ivan, I'm just announcing this. Participants,
Yes.
please keep your mics muted, please.
Professor Varun, you need to mute your
He
mic.
has been removed. He has been removed, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Professor Ivan, yeah.
Yeah. So this is between the article of Martin is cited in both of these articles, right? So this is one unit of bibliographic coupling, and the number of articles that are cited in both, that means that if there are more of them, the connection is actually stronger. Let's go on with a bibliometric method. So one method that is very simple is actually citation analysis, direct citation analysis. And citation is actually a measure of influence. So if the article is cited more, that usually assume that more people found it useful, and it influenced more studies, right? So usually more citations means also more influence, at least scholarly influence, right? With the direct citation, we cannot really draw connections, but we can identify which publications are most important, right? So if we search for some research field, for example, we search all publications in corporate social responsibility, and we then figure out which publications are most cited in our field, then see which actually publications CSR the most, right? And if we read the top 5 or top 10, we will get a good sense of those publications that influence them. So here's one example for non-technological innovation. So here are the articles that influence non-technological innovation literature the most. And here's another one. Okay, method. Method is a code analysis. You'll know actually these are not new. So COSA, for example, was by Small in 1973. Most of the studies that were reviewed in our article, organizational research methods, they use this co-citation analysis, right? Think about co-citation is that it changes through time. Right? So so co-citation, how many articles were cited together? But if we do the analysis today, the number of let's say an article, and we try to connect it with another article, if we do the analysis today, it will be different than if we do it in 5 years, because in the meantime, more and they will cite both works or not, and this kind of citation will change. So it is important when actually we do analysis. And the co-citation analysis actually does how the scholarly community sees the we're most of the authors in co-citation analysis do it on the documents, right? So they connect to different publications. Sometimes they also connect the authors. And the point of citation analysis is actually the structure. So where is the knowledge? What is knowledge base, or what are maybe theoretical foundations of the field, right? Here are also some examples in the bottom of the slide of co-citations that were published in top journals like Strategic Management Journal or Entrepreneurship Theory and Practice. And here are some examples of a co-citation analysis, right? So see on this different articles. You see, I don't know, Kaplan book on balanced scorecard. You can see Daft's article published in the Academy of Management Journal, and so. And the more, the thicker and darker the is that higher the co-citation count, right? So, article of Dama, for example.
Professor Ivan.
Yes.
I'm really, my apology to interrupt you once again, but sir, your voice is breaking and it is not clear to the participants. So I would request if you could rejoin or could look into the connection, it will be very, very helpful to all of us.
Yeah, I can try to leave this and rejoin.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Yeah.
Please, sir.
Okay, let's do.
Right, sir.
Meanwhile, if you can request participants also to close their video for a moment, I think it will help us.
Sure,
it's a microphone issue of the speaker.
Professor Shikha, we can also request the admin to mute all the people. Who's the admin for the meeting?
All right, sir.
I have already muted everyone, sir.
You've already muted everyone, but still people were speaking in between, and that is really annoying if a foreign speaker is speaking.
Right.
We must respect and acknowledge that someone's taken out time and is doing this session for us only and no one else. So anyone who benefits is one of us, each one of us only, in fact. So must ensure that the mics are mute, please. Thank you.
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir. I would once again request all the participants to please keep your mics muted during the entire session. And you can type your questions or comments in the chat box. Feel free to use the chat box. And we shall be resuming the session soon, as there were some voice issues. We have already requested the speaker, and we shall be resuming the session very soon. Please be patient. We shall be right back with you.
I think Professor Shikha, you can do one thing.
Yes,
Also
ma'am.
announce that if they are having any voice problem, they can put their cameras off. That might make the things clear.
All right. So I would request all of you, if it helps, you can try that out. You can put off your cameras, and maybe the voice clarity may become better. So it could be bandwidth issue as well. So I request all of you to please cooperate. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Let's see if this is going to be better.
Right, sir.
Am I still breaking, or is it better now?
Sir, this is slightly better. So this is better, sir. If you could share your PPT, sir, we shall be able to see it also on screen.
All right, let's try it again.
Right, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
All right, let's hope that it will work better this time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we stopped at this map actually. So I was telling that the strength of the connections is actually in the map. The stronger the co-citation connection, the stronger is the line. The thicker the line, the stronger the connection. Right. This is how these maps are usually shown. So these are, for example, also another example of identified clusters. Right. So this is this was, for example, a number of clusters was identified in the literature, and they are visualized in a map with the network analysis software. Right. So there's a cluster on organizational studies and knowledge-based view, on top management, marketing, innovation, behavioral theory, and so on. Here's another map, also based on the co-citation analysis, where this is actually they are collapsed into specific literatures. Right? So different literatures are actually shown here. And there are also, one of the things is this is basically a two-mode structure. Right? So you can see individual and the group level studies on the black circles, and you can see specific topics in the squares, right, for example. And one thing that you can show also in co-citation is how actually the literature developed over time, right? So here the authors did specific co-citation analysis for each decade, right? So they did it for 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s, right? And then they show how these literatures actually developed over time, and which literatures maybe stopped developing, which developed in something else, and so on. So this was basically the co-citation analysis. The second method is bibliographic coupling. And this method is actually even older than co-citation. So it was developed in the 1960s by Kessler in 1963. And as I mentioned earlier, the more the reference lists of two articles overlap, the stronger the connection. So if I write an article and 10 of the articles are the same, cited articles are the same as in another article, that means that we're connected with the coupling strength of 10. Right? So the more the more cited items are the same, the bigger probability that these two articles are actually similar, right? Because we say this kind of measures actually also assume that they imply topical similarity in the articles. And as opposed to co-citation analysis, this is a static measure. So if we do co-citation analysis, the analysis today will not be the same as in 5 years. Whereas if we do bibliographic coupling, the citation and the reference lists of articles do not change. So if we connect two articles with a strength of 10 today, this coupling strength will be the same in 5 years or 10 years, because when the article is published, the reference list is actually set. And it's also a little bit of philosophical difference between bibliographic coupling and co-citation analysis. Bibliographic coupling actually mostly aggregates the views of authors. So when I cite a certain document in my paper, this means that this is how I position my paper, right? So when co-citation analysis is actually about other people citing my paper. And it's also bibliographic coupling is actually immediately available. Co-citation analysis, you need a certain amount of time for citations to accumulate, right? So you cannot really analyze emerging fields or research fronts with co-citation analysis. But with bibliographic coupling, you basically can, right? And here at the end are also some examples of bibliographic coupling studies that were published in management research. So here are maybe some examples of the bibliographic coupling maps. This is the one published in Fogel and Gutel, 2013, and so much about bibliographic coupling. Another method that is often used in bibliometric studies is cohort analysis. And this is basically, it's not a practical bibliometric method, but it works on actual abstracts, right? So it uses the actual contents of the documents to construct similarity measures. And it basically produces some kind of semantic map of a field, right? So you can apply this on keywords of the articles. You can do it on abstracts or full text that you have data on. Here you want to produce some kind of network of topics and how they're related, and you actually want to produce some kind of a conceptual map of a field. And here we have also some examples of cohort analysis studies that were published in a good journal. So here's one example of a strategy concept. So how is a strategy concept? These are the keywords that are in this map, right? And these are connected with the strategic or strategy or strategic management concept. And finally, the final bibliometric method is co-author analysis. So here we're basically analyzing the collaborations of scientific articles, and this relationship is established when two authors publish a paper together. So if I work with somebody else on a paper and we publish, that we mean we published one paper, but we publish a lot of them. That means that we collaborate a lot, right? And with this kind of when we aggregate these things, we can see we can basically do the map the network social network structure of a certain field, right? And the collaboration between authors is actually evidence of that social structure. And here's also some examples of co-author analysis study. And then here's, for example, one example of the co-authorship. This is also taken from the article Bibliometric Medicine Management Organization. Here you see what kind of different questions you can answer by different methods. Right? So different methods are more appropriate for analyzing different questions than others, right? So, for example, in co-citation analysis, you can analyze the intellectual structure of a certain literature. Right? Also, how this literature actually developed over time, and how the structure of the field developed. With bibliographic coupling, maybe it's better to analyze more recent emerging literature, right? That you cannot do with co-citation analysis, and so on. So you have a number of examples of research questions that you can ask that can be answered by bibliometric methods. And here is some kind of a summary. In the articles that we analyzed, actually, most of them actually used either co-citation and citation analysis. So co-citation is basically the most used bibliometric method in management studies. And others are, apart from the straight citation analysis, others are used more sporadically. Although recently, I have to say, I see more and more use of bibliographic coupling. So much about research design. So we choose our research question. We choose the method that we want to answer this research question, and then we have to choose the database. And usually, the most used database is Web of Science. The majority of publications in bibliometric methods actually use Web of Science. Some of them also use Scopus, but they're in minority. Google Scholar is also a very interesting database, but currently doesn't allow this kind of citation data. So you cannot use Google Scholar data for these studies because you cannot really export it from the Google databases. And one thing is that data must be cleaned because there are certain imperfections, especially regarding journal and author names. These are the most problematic. If you do it on a document level, so document analysis, it is less of a problem. But if you do the analysis on the author or on the journal level, you have to clean the names, because different journals, I mean, the same journal could appear in different abbreviations in the citation data. And one thing that's also very important is how you search for the publications, right? And you have basically three major options. One is you search for selected keywords. You can limit your scope to certain journals, right? So for example, you're interested in a topic in entrepreneurship, and you then only use the articles published in entrepreneurship journals. And finally, you can also use qualitative filtering. So basically, you read the abstracts, and for each paper, you decide whether it is within the scope of your review or not. And you can combine these three methods, and which one you will use is mostly dependent on how good is actually your keywords. Because some keywords are much better than others. For example, if you search for innovation systems, you'll get literature that is mostly on innovation systems. If you're interested in clusters, clusters as agglomeration clusters known in economics, right? Then you get literature on clusters, but you also get cluster as a cluster in clustering methods, right? So there's no way that you can distinguish these two literature other than actually reading the abstracts and qualitative filtering of the literature. And actually, you can see here that SSCI, or Web of Science, is the most used database, and that searching selectively by journals and qualitative filtering are three different ways that are often combined to select the articles. So, okay, you have your method, you have your data exported from Web of Science, and now you need to do the analysis, right? First, you have to choose bibliometric software. And nowadays, I would say that VOS Viewer is currently the most user-friendly software. It can take the output from the Web of Science and you can basically produce some kind of bibliometric analysis in the matter of minutes, basically. So when you have your data, you can very quickly analyze it. So when you get a hang of this technical procedure, it will become much easier for you to do the analysis. But as I mentioned, actually the difficult part here is in the interpretation. So there are some options for cleaning data. If you're doing the co-citation, then you can also produce the co-occurrence correlation matrices. From VOS Viewer or from other software, you can also produce export that you can import in network analysis software. Because, for example, VOS Viewer does have some options for visualization, but actually network analysis software like PIAC or UCNet are much more sophisticated. So you can also then calculate some network centrality measures and so on, and have many more options for visualization. So VOS Viewer, for example, can do some basic visualization, but it is network analysis softwares are much better in this respect. So nowadays, actually, VOS Viewer is, I'd say, the most used and the most simple to use, and I would highly recommend it. Before, people also used BibXL. This is actually very simple to use, but the user interface is actually quite cumbersome. And I think recently also emerged a package in R that is called Bibliometrics with the visualization interface BiblioShiny. So this one is actually also good, and I can recommend that if you use R, this is something that is very quick and simple to use too. So, but when we did the analysis, actually the BibXL was one of the most used softwares. Actually, a lot of authors constructed their own databases and did the analysis in Microsoft Excel. But actually, most of the published papers in Bibliometric, they did not report which software they used. So next step when doing the analysis is identifying subgroups. So subgroups, you want to see what is the structure of the research that you're analyzing. So in this case, you can use principal component analysis, you can use cluster analysis, you can use multidimensional scaling, but nowadays I would mostly recommend network analysis algorithms. So you would use this in network analysis software like PIAC or UCNet, and this kind of these algorithms would actually produce clusters in a network that you're visualizing. So other than so multidimensional scaling was also, you can use network analysis both for identifying the cluster and for visualization, right? And network analysis are nowadays the most used tools for doing this kind of visualization. Multidimensional scaling was also the method that was used previously, but nowadays I have to say, in newer studies I rarely see them published. So software for the network analysis is mostly three are the most important, I'd say. PIAC, UCNet, and Gephi. Gephi is also a good visualization software and network analysis software. It's easy to use. It's open source, so it's developed constantly. And for example, if you use R, you can also use iGraph or any of the other packages for network analysis in R. Network analysis is actually becoming the most used method for visualization. Multidimensional scaling is actually not used all that much before. And from software, most of the studies actually use UCNet, but majority of the published do not report which visualization software they actually used. So here's an example of the visualization. Right? So this is multidimensional scaling, and this kind of usually visualizations try to show you those articles that are more, let's say, topically similar, that are more similar, that are visualized closer together. So those that would be closer would be more similar, and also the size of the circle would mean how many citations this kind of article has. So, for example, Porter 1980 would be cited a lot, while some others like would be cited much less than Porter. Here's another example of network visualization literature. And here's example of bibliographic coupling from VOS-Viewer, right? So VOS-Viewer has a quite nice and very colorful visualizations that are out of the box. But actually, even if you do the analysis in VOS-Viewer, you can basically export data and use other network analysis software to visualize it. Right? Another example of visualization of a two-mode network. So here the journals are connected to the perspectives, or let's say theoretical perspectives in management research. Right? So you have journals like AMR, Academy of Management Review, JMS, Journal of Management Studies, and these are connected to the theoretical perspectives like competencies, behavioral theory, institutionalisms, and so on. Another example of visualization from Chen and Leidesdorf. So these are very colorful, but maybe less useful for the proper analysis. And just another example. Here's the visualization of the O of scientific literature. Basically, seriously, millions of articles that are visualized. If you want to do visualizations like this, you need direct access to Web of Science data. Right? Currently, most of the researchers are only accessible this Web of Science data through online interface, and then there you can basically export 500 articles at one time. You can then put those 500s together up to a few thousand, but you cannot really. It's not feasible to do millions of articles by hand. And here's another example of the visualization of a term map. You can see it on the analysis we did on the high-tech literature. So those areas that are painted red are those words are actually used more in abstracts and titles than some others. And a final step here is the interpretation. And I'd say interpretation is actually the hard part, because it is very easy to do some kind of descriptive bibliometric analysis, and when you get a more technical knowledge, actually you can do it very quickly. And some journals actually publish it, right? So, but if you go to the higher journals, you have to interpret it. It still means reading the literature and interpreting what actually connection between various clusters mean for the future, right? Most of the reviews have to be focused on the future, not the past, right? And in interpretation, mostly the authors use three strategies. They interpret the structure of the literature, or they try to interpret how the literature developed over time. So, for example, you can divide the literature in multiple time periods, and you can see how this literature developed over time. And sometimes, actually, authors would focus on a very specific or narrow research question, and these kind of articles usually would have a very small bibliometric part, but a very, very extensive discussion, right? So bibliometric part would be just showing that, I don't know, maybe you could analyze that management journals do not cite marketing journals, but marketing journals cite management journals a lot. I'm just saying an example, so not that this is so, but this kind of things could be true in certain literatures, right? So for example, I'm examining business models literature. We can see that a lot of strategy literature on business models, when they're talking about the the value creation part, they talk about things that marketing talks, but they often do not cite any literature from marketing. Right? And these kind of issues you cannot analyze with bibliometric methods. So, of course, they're not perfect. Right? So there are some limitations of bibliometric methods. It is not possible to establish why the publication was cited solely from bibliometric data. I could cite some literature because I think it's good and it's useful for my research. I could cite it because I think it's bad and it's a negative citation. Or some of the most famous works in the field, they get a lot of so-called ritual citations, right? So you would cite, I know in Entrepreneurship you would cite Schumpeter, and I would doubt that a lot of articles who are citing Schumpeter are actually read what Schumpeter actually said. Also you have to be aware of the bias, right? So when you're examining citation data, newer publications had less time to be cited. So there's some kind of bias, and you have to take that into account. There's also limitations with the visualization. Science Map can only handle a limited number of publications, right? So up to 550, maybe 100, but more is becoming much more difficult to visualize. And software, apart from VOSviewer, which is really user-friendly, is still relatively cumbersome to use. Now, the future. And the bibliometric methods actually entered mainstream. So, there are nowadays, you can see really a lot of bibliometric reviews of scientific literature. Right? When I was writing the article on the analysis of bibliometric methods, there was like just, I think, 90 studies published. That was in 2000. Now there are literally hundreds of bibliometric studies. And VOSviewer actually, they did fill this gap of needing of better bibliometric software. Right? And one thing in the future is you can also use topic modeling methods for analyzing actual text. Right? And I think combination of this kind of citation and text-based methods is the future of bibliometric studies. If you want really the method literature, there are 3 journals where bibliometric methodological research is published. One is Journal of the Association of Information Science and Technology, the other is Scientometrics, and the third is the Journal of Informetrics. So to conclude, co-citation analysis is the most used method for exploration of knowledge base. Bibliographic coupling is actually not used so much, but is useful for examining newer literature. And co-word and co-author analysis are actually used only sporadically. If you want to visualize, network analysis tools like PIAC, UCNet, and Gephi are actually the best tool for doing that. And just because of the large number of publications of bibliometric studies are done, then the bar for publishing them is actually getting higher. And what I would say is interpretation is still left to the research, and interpretation is actually the hard part. So I would conclude here. So thank you everyone for listening, and I hope this second part was at least a little bit more more audible than the first part.
Yes, sir, definitely it was. Thank you so much, Professor Ivan Zupic, for a very, very insightful session covering all the intricate aspects of bibliographic analytics. So we have received some of the questions in the chat box. If you permit, may I take up the questions from the chat box?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir. The first question is from Ms. Swati, and she's saying, what are the reliable sources of getting the citation number of a paper?
I'm not sure. What do you mean, reliable sources? I'm not sure I understand the question properly.
So she is asking about that, the number of citations. Where exactly can you know that? What is the number of citations exactly for a particular research paper? How do you come to know that number?
Actually, this means how many articles cited that paper, and usually VOS-Viewer, I mean not VOS-Viewer, Web of Science would actually give you that number, right? So let me see. Maybe I can share another screen just to give you an example. So just a second. Okay, so I'm sharing a Web of Science interface, right?
Right.
So for example, if we search for corporate social responsibility, we'll get I don't know 16,000 articles, for example, right? And the number of articles are cited is usually as part of this Web of Science dataset. For example, this article at the beginning was published. The Knowledge Construction Network of Engagement Research was published just recently. Actually, it's an early view, and it didn't have time to be cited. But for example, we can also sort the site by citations. We can see that the most cited articles, cited article in corporate social responsibility literature is the article Strategy and Society published in Harvard Business Review. It was cited 1,983 times, right? So and when you export the data from Web of Science, you can do it very simply here. You can export this kind of citation data from the Web of Science, and then these files you will use in the later analysis. So I hope this answers the question.
Right. So thank you so much, sir. So there's next question, and Mark is saying that if you could throw some light on these databases, Academic Search, Premier, and ERIC, ERIC. What are exactly these databases?
I mean, usually they contain research, so data about research articles, and usually you'd have different data in them. For example, I mean, I'd say it's most useful if you want to do bibliometric. It's most useful to concentrate on Web of Science and Scopus, because other databases are, I'm not sure whether they allow, and they have much more limited coverage, right? So Web of Science and especially Scopus, they would have much wider coverage of databases than others like EBSCOhost or others that are there.
Right. So there's next question from Dr. V.N. Bajpai, and he's asking that apart from the publication, what are the ways that we can adopt to increase the citation of a paper?
Oh, increasing the citation. It's $1 million question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd say I think there are a lot of different say. I mean, for example, one thing is making your article useful for other researchers, right? So this article, Bibliometric Methods in Management and Organizational, I think it summarizes bibliometric method very succinctly, so it is now getting a lot of citations. For example, I think it's now at 600 citations, right? So one thing is getting useful. One thing is also if you publish something important to the topic that is just rising, right? So it's also good to be early in a certain research stream, but this is only will get cited if this research stream actually takes off. Of course, there are a lot of, let's say, fads in the research that are very popular, maybe 1 year or 2 year, but then they die off. Right? But it's also connected where the article is published. So articles in better journal get more attention than in the lower ranked journals. And I'd say actually that it is very also important to share the article through social media. So for example, when you publish an article, it's good to put it on ResearchGate, announce Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on, so that the researcher actually know about this. And I think this also can make a huge difference.
Right, so as it is, we have started using social media extensively. So I think professional networks and other things will help. Thank you, sir. So there's a next question, and here it is asked that if you could demonstrate a practical example for how to analyze using the software.
I can just show very quickly, maybe, right? So
yes,
just yeah, if I'll just show another thing. Okay, so here I have VOS Viewer basically, and VOS Viewer is actually very simple software for bibliometric analysis. I have also here I have one file that actually I downloaded from Web of Science. So if you downloaded data from Web of Science into a text file, and then you just open it with the VOS Viewer. So for example, you go. This is the start. So I just selected this in my folder. Then I can choose which method will I use. So for example, I'll use co-citation here, right? And I'll do it on the cited reference. This means on the cited paper level. You can choose various thresholds. So how many publications you will include in the analysis. So if I choose only articles that were cited at least 20 times, I'll have 127. If I choose, for example, those that are cited at least 15 times, then I have almost 200. If I put the threshold even lower, I have more articles, right? So this is one of the decisions that you have to make. And it's basically a trade-off between comprehensibility and let's say what is good for visualization. Let's say that we keep the threshold at 20. Again, you can choose some other thresholds. And here you see the reference, basically the articles that are on your list. So when you do this, actually the VOS Viewer actually makes the visualization already. So what you can see, various colors here are various subgroups of research, right? And then basically you have to find which are these articles, because this is how the articles are represented in the Web of Science database, right? So let's let me see. Let's put this a little bit stronger. So, for example, the name of author. This is I.T.S. The year of publication, and where it was published. This journal is Long Range Planning, and from this data you can basically find which article this was, and you have to read the abstract and then interpret what red cluster means, what green cluster means, what blue cluster means, and so on. Mm-hmm. And also then actually export the data and use it. For example, you can export it in PIAC, and PIAC is a network analysis software that has much more extensive use for the network analysis, right? You can also limit how many lines you will, if you want to have it more readable, and so on, right? And this is here we have, which was, I think it was 127, and this is basically already pushing the limits how many publications we can see in a one map. Right? So you have various parameters here. You can play also with the parameters of what is the resolution of clustering. So you can increase or decrease the granularity of clustering. So basically, this is the parameters that you can work on. Yeah, this was just a quick.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. So there's another question by Mr. Mark, and he wants to have some more detail about the coupling method. And he says whether it is the most appropriate method in the emerging fields.
Yes, actually, the bibliographic coupling would be the most appropriate for emerging fields, because as you saw, if the publication was published this year, it has not been cited at all. So you cannot really use co-citation analysis. But bibliographic coupling you can use, because every publication has a reference list, and you can compare those reference lists and draw bibliographic coupling maps. So I would recommend, yes, bibliographic coupling absolutely for the emerging fields.
Okay. And so he would want to understand a little more about bibliographic coupling. What exactly, if some of the things, if you could repeat on that, sir.
Right. So bibliographic coupling actually works, as I said, works on the overlapping reference lists. So if I write a paper and you write a paper, and we cite 10 papers together, so 10 papers on my reference list are the same as 10 papers on your reference list. That means that our papers are connected with the coupling strength 10. If this coupling strength is higher, if there are like 15 papers on the reference list that are the same, this connection is stronger. If there is only one, we're probably writing only about very different things, right? So when you aggregate this data on, for example, 50, 100, 200 articles, then you can basically draw connections, draw networks, and apply clustering algorithms on the top of that, right? So then you can actually decipher the structure of the field from this. So this would basically be bibliographic coupling. I would say I would just try to you can if you go to I can share the article as well, the bibliometric methods in management and organization, and this is
right.
Bibliographic coupling is explained there. And I would also recommend just trying to find some recent bibliographic coupling studies and see how it was done there.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. That'll be great if you could share that, and it'll be very, very helpful to the researchers. So there's another question, and here Mr. Sengo has asked that, can you please elaborate more on the mapping process and the various software tools available for mapping?
So I'd say basic mapping could be done with VOSViewer. So I'd say just start with VOSViewer, and then basically, if that is not enough, if you need some more sophisticated analysis or more, you can calculate centrality measures, then I'd say basically any network analysis software. The top network analysis softwares that are used nowadays by researchers are PAJEK, P-A-J-E-K. That's one. UCNet is another, and Gephi is a third. So these three softwares would be, I think, the most appropriate for visualization and network analysis.
Okay, right, sir. So if you permit, I can take up one or two questions more because we have some questions popping up. Yeah. So there's another question from Mr. Versatile Zumismita, and it's saying that at times it happens that every research work is not found on the internet. At times we come to know later that this work has already been done. So what do we do in such a case, and how do we get to know that which work has been done before and which is not?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the best is to choose the appropriate keywords to search. So one is the search, but another thing is also if you're doing for example, bibliometric analysis on a certain question. Also, it could be that another person did the same analysis and is already in publication process. So maybe this work will appear later and so on. And but I'd say choosing your keywords and searching is, I think, the most appropriate. I mean, how to choose the appropriate keywords is I think the most.
Right, absolutely. So choosing keywords is the key. Sir, there's another question from Ms. Hemanidhi Gupta, And she's saying that she has tried bibliometric coupling using WOS viewer for entrepreneurial teams, data extracted from WOS, and the confusing mesh appeared in the output with so much of overlapping of research papers. So is this interpretation for this kind of overlapped output shows that there is more related work in the area that I'm researching?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what exactly is meant by the overlap, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to answer this question, to be frank. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Maybe they can send me an email so I can more interpret what is happening here.
Right, sir. So I would request Miss Hemanidhi if she could bring in more clarity in what exactly she wishes to ask. It'll be better.
Apparently, I didn't.
Right, sir. Sir, and there's one last question. So there's a question, although it's also very, the person is asked, cited in some journal doesn't increase our citations. I think he wants to say if the paper has been cited in some journal, will the number of citations go up? At times it doesn't. Why?
I don't know. Difficult to say. I mean, I don't know. Some papers just pick up and get cited more and more. Some papers then just die. I know for some of my papers they were cited 1 year, 2 years after publications, and then it goes down. Well, and one of the papers is just increasing every year. So I don't know. It's difficult to say exactly why these things happen.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Ivan, for answering all the questions so patiently and in such a detailed manner. We are very, very thankful to you. And I would now request our Director Management, Dr. Vidya Sekri, I would request her for her concluding remarks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Shikha.
Yes.
Dr. Ivan, it was indeed a wonderful session. And I think you completely gave the overview of what is bibliometric analysis. You already talked about citations, and there are, I think, many questions I was also seeing that people were not having any clarity on whether the same journal gives the reference of the same paper with the citations will be counted or not. And what are the different ways, which softwares are proper softwares for bibliometric, usages. A number of questions I was seeing. I think you cleared all the doubts of the faculty members. And there are a few faculty members which I was seeing in the chat box. I think you are open for if they wish to send a mail to you. I think we look forward for this type of collaborations, and if you answer their queries, I think we shall be more than happy. And
absolutely no problem.
Yeah, because there are many questions, comes in a mind, and I think 1.5 hour time sometimes feel that it is really insufficient, to get across many things. And we really look forward for our further, kind of help from you people, where our faculty really needs any kind of input. We always look forward for these type of maybe some sessions, or maybe email or your interaction through virtual media. So faculty members have enjoyed it, and we are thankful to you once again, sparing the time, accepting our request, and entire I.T.S family members are thankful to you, and we would like to present the plaque as a remembrance for this session. I would be mailing you the same, but here we would like to present it virtually, and I request the Professor Shikha to present the plaque.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Sir, thank you so much once again. And I'm sure it was a very, very fruitful session. And I'm sure all the participants would have also taken a note of the key takeaways. And it is going to be really instrumental in generation of quality literature review and quality research papers. On behalf of I.T.S, I once again express my heartfelt gratitude and would like to present this virtual plaque as a token of gratitude and reverence. Kindly accept it, sir, and we shall be mailing you the same also.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much for your kind words, and really happy to participate in this. And I'd say really thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we conclude the first part of today's 3-hour series. It was indeed a very interesting and stimulating session by Professor Ivan Zupic. And in continuation, we have the next session on ethics in research by Dr. Soha Akiki from Paris Graduate School, France. Before I hand over the next session to my colleague, Professor Yachna, I would take this opportunity to thank you all for being wonderful participants. I really enjoyed moderating the sessions, and it has been an amazing experience to interact with global experts and with all of you very energetic and high-spirited participants. I wish you a great learning ahead. Thank you very much. Over to you, Professor Yachna.
Right. Thank you so much, Professor Shikha, for the wonderful session by Dr. Ivan. Before I proceed and we move towards the last but a very important session, let me check the audio and video test with all of you. I hope I'm audible and I'm visible on your screen.
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible and you're visible.
And guest has also joined, ma'am. Guest has also joined.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. But I can't see VC sir now in the participants. So is he still there with us in the meeting?
No, ma'am. I also can't see him. I think he has left the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be keeping a check off if in case he joins in. Right. Thank you so much once again, Ashish sir. Dr. Soha, can you hear me and can you see me on your screen? Dr. Soha, that's me, Professor Yachna Malhotra from I.T.S Mohannagar.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon in Indian time and morning for you. Very good afternoon, ma'am. Hope I'm clear and loud to you.
Hello.
Ma'am, is my voice clear and loud?
Yes, it's okay. It's okay now. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. We just finished with an interesting session on bibliometric analytics by Dr. Ivan Zupic. And now we are moving towards the last, but a very significant and important topic for research, that is ethics in research. So on behalf of I.T.S Parivar, I welcome you from the bottom of my heart to this 5-day international e-FDP program, right? Ladies and gentlemen, Director ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes.
Right. Ma'am, we will also be accompanied on this digital platform by our Director Management, Dr. Vidya Sekri. She'll be also joining us for the program. So before I formally start, I just wanted to ensure that I'm visible and audible to her as well. Director ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes, yes.
All right. All right.
Yes, you're audible, Yashna. We'll be starting sharp at 3:30.
Okay. Okay.
5 minutes we'll be starting. You continue with the...
Right.
What I suggest, ma'am, if you can take up the feedback suggestions of some of the participants.
All right.
For our first session. So 1-2 suggestions, so it will help us to improve upon.
Sure, sir. I'll just do that. So, ma'am, I just want to brief you that we had, though we have already spoken to you and the schedule must be floated to you by the organizers, we had very enriching 5-day session for this international e-FDP. We learned a lot about academic research, publications, how to bridge the gap between industry and academia, literature review, and just finished with an interesting session on bibliometric analytics by Dr. Ivan. Ma'am, before we will be starting at 3:30 sharp as per the scheduled time. And meanwhile, I would like to take this opportunity to request our very enthusiastic participants to share their feedback. If any one of them would be interested in sharing the feedback, it will surely help us to improvise and produce some better events than this. It would be motivation, but at the same time, yes, there is always a scope of improvement. So I request the participants, if any one of them is interested to share the feedback, we will wholeheartedly like to accept that feedback from you. It would be your valuable inputs for all of us. May I request the participants, if any one of them is interested to come forward and speak, they can unmute and then can share their valuable feedback. I hope they are writing, some of them are writing the feedback in the chat box. I can just see. We would really wish if any one of you would like to unmute yourself and will like to give your feedback. I understand that, yes, we are interacting on a digital platform. We are not physically present with each other. But yes, by keeping the video on and audio on, at least we are touching the heart pace with each other. So if in case any one of you would like to, you can please. Okay, Miss Seema is saying that she's unable to unmute. Okay, no issues, no issues. I understand technical glitch is part of everyone's journey. There is some network issue anyhow today with some of our participants. So, ma'am, I would like to share with you that during this pandemic, I.T.S has been working day and night hard to serve the society. Though this year we are celebrating our silver jubilee, we were established in 1995, and this year we are celebrating our silver jubilee. So this has been an recommendable journey during this last 25 years. And I would request the participants to please keep their mics muted throughout the session. And as is
Ma'am, removed.
Right.
Removed.
Thank you so much, Ashish sir. I hope by now we are accustomed to the virtual sessions. At times it is intentionally not done. So I would request all the participants to be a little more vigilant and keep their mics muted and do not share their screen in between, as it disturbs the entire flow of the session. So, ma'am, I was sharing with you that we are celebrating our silver jubilee this year, and we were established in 1995, and this during this time we have adopted and we have equipped the technology very fast. As our vice chairman has called us as faculty members the hidden warriors. We actually we actually took up that in the right spirit, and we started our online classes and online sessions from the very next day of the national lockdown, and we have done many webinars by now. We have recently finished up with an online summit, an entrepreneurship summit, a session led by IM alumni as well. We have webinars by the industry experts, by our knowledge partners. And also, we understand that the spirit of students need to be high and motivated during this time, as they are missing that social connect. So, in order to keep that social connect with them and their spirits high, we had sessions from the celebrities across all the sections of society. May it be some famous singer, musician, a DJ, a radio jockey, a famous cricketer. So we had it from sports, we had it from music. So that all helped the students and all the stakeholders of the institute to keep their spirits high and motivated at the same time. So with this note, I hope it is now 3:30 and we shall, the participants would have also taken 2-3 minutes break in order to be back for another interesting session. So with this and the permission of Director Ma'am, Ma'am, can we now start the session?
Yes, you can start now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Right.
Okay, so can I start?
Ma'am, I will just take 2 minutes for a formal introduction,
okay.
and then we shall start.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. I, Professor Yachna Malhotra, welcome you all to this very digital platform of ITS Group for the last but yet very important and essential topic in this 5-day e-International FDP on academic research methods enabling publication, as research depends upon collaboration between researchers and groups. Therefore, ethics plays a very important role in order to understand the significance more better. Let me invite a distinguished resource speaker and expert on board, Dr. Soha Akiki from Paris Graduate School, France. On this occasion, we also delighted to have our Director Management, Dr. Vidya Sekri, who is always keeping us inspired, and it has been a dream for her to keep the research spirit high in us as academicians. So we truly respect that spirit, and under her vision, we have initiated this international e-FDP program. So before I hand over it to Dr. Soha and introduce her, I would request Director Ma'am to formally welcome Dr. Soha. May I request you, ma'am? Over to Director Ma'am.
Okay.
Director Ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Yashna. Am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Am I audible to everybody?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Very good afternoon, Dr. Soha, and good morning for you. It is afternoon here and a morning there in Paris.
It's
So,
afternoon.
first of all,
Noon here. It's noon.
yeah, it's afternoon there. Yeah, it's 3.5 hours gap. Okay. So good afternoon to you. First of all, let me thank you for accepting my invitation. And in spite of your busy schedule, I'm sure that you are traveling and you have come in the morning only. And it is you're pretty busy. But in spite of that, you accepted the invitation. And this is what it shows the passion for academician to be amongst the faculty members. And this passion has driven you here. So on this virtual platform, welcome to India and welcome to ITS. We welcome you on this forum. And it is really wonderful and nice. And the topic we have chosen, rather it was your own suggestion that let us go for ethics in research. Because in last 5 days, we have covered most of the topics. And I feel that research is an endless gamut of, entire ocean. So even if we are able to collect some drops out of it, I think our job is done. And faculty members will be motivated and they get a boost for further research. This was really a knowledgeable session, and your session is a concluding session. And I think when we talk about the research in ethics, there are many parameters to the ethics. And I think the faculty members are surely going to enjoy this. And without wasting much of the time, so I will hand over the session to you, Professor Soha. And once again, I welcome you. And our Dr. Professor, our Arpit Cheddaji, he Vice Chairman of ITS, he has met you in Paris, if you remember. So he will definitely join us in between. And he gave me the message that he will join in between and he will definitely have a chat with you. Okay.
Excellent.
We have been talking on, this is first time we are talking to each other. So I request you, once you come to India, we'll have a physical session of faculty members with you, and we'll love to host you at I.T.S Ghaziabad. Okay.
I would love
So,
to. Once we can.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to introduce you all to Dr. Soha Akiki. She is president and founder of Innovative Knowledge Institute and Paris Graduate School. Dr. Akiki is a neutral communicator, motivator, and leader. She has a rich and varied background spanning a 30-year period in academia, including director-level positions in administration and finance. In her various roles as strategic developer, leader, academic director, author, and mentor, concurrently with management positions held at academic institutions. Dr. Soha has lectured on various subjects such as marketing, international business, entrepreneurship, and international relations. Whether in academic or corporate environments, Dr. Soha embraces the challenges and enjoys the diversity of working with international profile. Ma'am is member of the panel at UNESCO on October 5, the World Teachers' Day, holding a doctorate in international relations, specialized in the challenges of brain-based learning, and a master's in business administration. Dr. Soha has organized many conferences, and the one with on nuclear situation versus April 2012 was organized on the French intervention in Mali and the economic business post-war. With these words, ma'am, we are really glad and delighted to have you with us for this concluding session of 5-day International e-FDP. So I would not like to now come between you and participants. So I would hand over the session to you. Over to you, ma'am. Please address the participants.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everything, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Vicky, for all the correspondence we had together. And I am very, very happy and honored to be with you today. And excuse me, because I caught a cold yesterday because I was traveling. So if you can't hear me, you let me know. Huh? But I hope it will get better. Anyway, let's start. So you introduced me. Thank you very much. And why I chose this topic? Because research is very important. And when I created my school back in 2013, I said to myself, I will focus on research because all the students has to do at least 1 year research, because research, it gives the student his own work. It's not only staying passively in a classroom, which is the future will tell us that really we are going to have lots of changes and challenges in the future because of all this artificial intelligence. And look at our meeting today, it's virtual. We never thought it would happen one day back 10 years back, and now it's happening, and we will be facing even more and more changes and challenges in education. And that's why we have to have vision and to go forward. Now, today is the ethics. So what is the aim of my session today, and what will you learn after going out from your computer chat room? So first we will be defining ethics as usual. We need to start with definition. After, we have to understand why ethics is important and why ethics is vital for research. And of course, we will go to the Nuremberg Code at the end because of this human experimentation. Nuremberg Code, it's from 1947. I think you've heard of it. If not, I put the 10 articles at the end of the presentation. So ethics, usually, sometimes people mix up between ethics and legal. Ethics is something we believe in, good or right. It's our principle, our behavior. Sometimes it's ethical to me, not ethical to someone else. You see, it depends upon our culture as well. Huh? But usually, ethics is a guide to morale. We have to understand this. It's a guide to morale. It helps whether a behavior is justified or it's not justified. Ethics refers to a society's sense, the right way of behaving, the daily life, the right daily life. So by this, establishing rules, principles, and values. That's very important because each one of us has values.
Yashna?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Director, ma'am,
Yeah.
you wanted to say something?
Mrs. Sir had joined in between.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
VC sir has joined, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Dr. Soha, I would just take 1 minute to introduce you to our Vice Chairman, sir. He has just joined the platform, right? So, and he is under his visionary leadership, we are growing day by day. So I would just take 1 minute to introduce him, and we'll look forward to his kind words so that then we can proceed towards the session. Right?
Okay.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I would take this opportunity to introduce you all to our Vice Chairman, Shri Arpit Chaddaji. He's an alumnus of India School and University of Delhi and a postgraduate in Business Administration. He's working very hard day and night to make his father's vision, that is our chairman's vision of Padhai and Dawai, that is education and healthcare, to the last person in the society. Sir is recently elected as the Vice President of GMA and is an active member of professional bodies like CEGR, IMA, ICCI, and ICPEI. Under Sir visionary and dynamic leadership, I.T.S has been recently awarded Most Preferred UG and PG Institute of the Year by Bharat Ratna Padma Vibhushan, His Excellency ex-President Shri Pranab Mukherjee. Under our CSR responsibility, Sir has taken multiple initiatives which have been shared earlier by our director ma'am also to keep the society served and to feed the hungry and thirsty. At the same time, to keep the spirits high for all of us during this time, Sir has kept many sessions and has organized and helped us in keeping many sessions under his leadership. As his own philosophy is that for every dark night, there is a brighter day, and no matter how dark it gets, sun is always going to rise again. So with these words, and before I hand over to VC sir, I would just like to ensure that I am audible and visible to sir. Sir,
Yeah, you
am
are.
I loud and clear?
Yeah, I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible, and I request you for your kind words at this occasion and address the participants as well. Thank you, sir.
Very good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Vidya and the entire department for this fabulous initiative of 5 days FDP, International FDP. I am glad to see Dr. Soha. I hope you can see me as well. It's a pleasure seeing you after a long time. And we had met earlier when I had visited there.
Yes.
And I hope you and family are doing pretty well. I know the entire world is affected by this pandemic, but as Professor Yashna rightly said, that the philosophy goes like that itself, that the brighter side is not far away. I've been speaking at various platforms and I've been telling everyone that everyone is saying that the new normal will be the permanent normal. However, I differ. I don't know how many of you agree or not, but things will definitely change. The night can never be a forever night. The day has to come, and I'm pretty sure it might take 6 months, 6 more months. But as we are seeing, even the medicines, be it Indian company or be it Oxford, there has been great progress in the COVID-19 medicine also. And I really hope for the entire world that the medicine comes out as soon as possible. And so coming back to the international FDP, Dr. Soha, we've always, when I had met you also, I was telling you that we at I.T.S have always focused on not only students, but ensuring that the masters, that the teachers who teach the students are trained by the best. And I'm happy and I'm glad that people like you take out time from the busy schedule. We truly appreciate your time, and I'm happy to see you and even other speakers who had joined. Just before you, there was a speaker from University of London, UK. So we've had a lot of 7-8 international speakers. It's really a proud feeling that I.T.S is blessed with a fabulous team. And as I said in the beginning also, Dr. Vidya and the entire team, this is absolutely amazing. I really wanted to be part of more sessions, but somehow because of health reasons, I could not join in. But me joining in or not does not take the credit away from you. And I especially made it a point to join this session because I had met you also, Dr. Soha, earlier on. So I thought I'll just say a good hello to you, and very happy learning to all the members of I.T.S family. I'm sorry to interrupt in between, but yeah, I was told 3:30 and then they were connecting problems and everything, and I am sorry to interrupt in between, but my deep best regards to Dr. Soha. Congratulations to Dr. Vidya and the entire team. Please make it a great learning experience, and I'm sure the 5 days were fabulous. And let us all continue learning and never think that we are over-learned, overqualified, because that's never the case. And the day anyone starts thinking that, that's the end of the road. So once again, congratulations, and thank you, Dr. Soha, for joining in. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Nice to see you again virtually.
Thank you so much, VC sir, for your benign presence And I must share with you, sir, we have always seen your pictures with Dr. Soha on the social platform. So it was a dream come true for many of us today to see both of you together on this digital platform. And I also wholeheartedly accept that under sir's leadership style and an eye for perfection has always helped us to keep the standard of excellence and ethics very high at ITS. So we really admire that from the bottom of my heart, sir. Thank you so much for joining us for this session.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry for intervening in between, Dr. Soha. Now it is over to you. You may please continue with your session.
No problem. It's fine. It's fine. I was so happy to listen to this speech because it brought me back to last year. Thank you. Hope we'll see each other again. So now I think we stopped at the definition, and so according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, here is the definition. It's the discipline of philosophy concerned with what is morally good and bad, right and wrong, also system or theory of moral values and principles. And I will add also conscience, because if you don't do well according to your own values, if you don't do good, if you don't do right, can you sleep at night? So it's our conscience sometimes works even more than anything else. And also what I want to add is, like parents, when we have a child, like parents, teachers, also the teacher's role, even in primary school, to teach the students how to acquire integrity, responsibility, well practice, self-discipline. All this belongs to ethics. And ethics in education helps regulate the education and helps, I cannot say stops the problems, but it will decrease a great deal the problems, because we can never reach perfection. Well, we are human beings anyway, and we cannot reach perfection. Nobody can reach perfection. And why I'm saying that? Because if we said a few years ago that we reached perfection, which means we are not now having this virtual session, yes or no? It's normal that we are asking ourselves more and more every day. So, and that's also a point in education. So, education, ethics in education is important, and teachers are responsible for that. That's why even at the lower stage, no problem. Now going to ethical principles. Ethical principles, we have to discuss about honesty, do not, especially honesty, the publication status, whatever. So once a researcher chose his sample, target sample. You see, in business, we say target customer, and also for science is our target patients. So once we choose our target sample, the behavior of the researcher should be motivating, encouraging, because we need to have accurate answer to lead to accurate results. If we don't have accurate answers, which means we won't have accurate results, which means input, bad output. So that's why the researcher should have a minimum of, how can I say, ethical behavior. So no harassment, no anxiety. Don't give anxiety to the participants or discomfort. It's very important, this. To be honest, I can give you an example. It happened to me. I'm not going to give other examples. Once I was walking in the street in Paris, close to department stores, and someone stopped me to do a research on a product. And you know, sometimes I like participating on this to see how people are behaving. And here I was unethical because he asked me if I am in marketing. At that time, I was a teacher in marketing. And I told him no, because I wanted to see. So I went there, and I think you have the same in in your cities. Huh? So he said to me, we have to go inside a building because there is a tasting, because it was food. I went, it was drink. I went there and it was a beer. There were 3 kinds of beer. I tasted them. I didn't like them at all. It was awful. I told him I was really open. I said, no, I don't like them. And all of a sudden, the guy, he said to me, okay, if you don't like it, you won't get 6 bottles sample. You see, he's blackmailing me. Here it's unethical. I told him I don't care. I didn't like it. You can keep them. And to tell you how a researcher can influence people. Maybe others, they told them, oh yeah, I like it. Give me 6 bottles. You see? So a researcher should be neutral. He shouldn't blackmail. He shouldn't harass. After, we need the consent of the participant. If you don't have the consent of the participant, you cannot do research. It's impossible. And you have to tell him, why are we going to do this research? For what purpose are we doing this research? Why is he picked up to do this research? Because, and what results you are expecting from this research? If you don't tell him, this is unethical, you have to explain, because maybe he won't be interested, and you cannot force someone to do a research. After, we have the confidentiality. Confidentiality, you know, in this world, we have many ethnic groups, many religions, many genders, different genders. And sometimes they say in a research, we cannot ask this type of questions. Okay, that's true. That's very true. But if we are doing research on a subject which implies having ethnic analysis, religion analysis, it won't be any more unethical. So it depends upon the research. But of course, confidentiality is very important. Nobody has the right to give your information to a third party. Nobody. And we have nowadays on the website, because we are a lot intelligent with all these machines, intelligent machine and smart machines. Sometimes they can tell you in a small characters, tiny characters, that if you don't want us to send your information to a third party, please click here. And most of people don't see it. And your information will fly wherever it is. So here also it's unethical. It has to be clearly shown, but it's not illegal, because they added it. So maybe I will have some questions. What is ethical and what is legal? Legal is something, it's laws put by the governments. Here it's legal. But ethical, they are not laws. They are, as I said, your principles, your values, your moral. What you believe in is right, and what you believe in is wrong. So that's the difference. Maybe I may have questions after. So, and it will be even better to have questions. And sometimes it's the answers will be very tricky and the questions will be tricky, because many things are not clear as of yet. After, we have the respect of the privacy, so we talked about. Now, we need to discuss the morale of the research. Why we do research? Because we do research because we want to advance. We want to do good for humanity. We want to do good for the company. We want to do good for a scientific laboratory. That's why we do research. We want to advance. We want to do something which can create, how can I say, like easiness in life. For example, look at the washing machine. Because of research, we had this washing machine. Because of research, we had internet. Because of research, we had this computer. So that's why when it brings something positive to the future generation, so that's why we need research. And of course, we need to respect individuals. We need to be kind to animals. And we need to respect the society we live in. That's the moral of things. Respect, respect. When we talk about respect, we respect our teachers, we respect our parents, but we respect our peer people, our peer groups, our friends. Respect is important. And of course, in research, we need to respect the individual we are working with, not only the samples. You have also a team, especially in the scientific laboratories. You are working with a team all together. And after, we will be seeing more points about it. Now, the ethical guidelines. Ethical guidelines, you see, we say this in tribunal, the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, okay? So the ethical guidelines is honesty, transparency, and unbiased research. And I will explain why I put these 3 points. To be honest, I direct many theses with my students, and I can see, and every day I learn more. You see, so it's not exhaustive. We learn every day. And even sometimes we learn from our students. It's even the best learning process. Sorry, excuse me. We ought to be honest. What do I mean by honesty? Honesty is when you are really telling the truth about your research. You are relating.
Balaji, you are requested to mute yourself, please.
He has been removed, ma'am.
Right. Thank you. You may continue, ma'am, please.
Okay. So, what do we need? What do we mean by honesty? Honesty is the research that we are following steps by steps. The research, we are not violating the morale of the research. For example, if I have a student which I'm directing his PhD thesis, and this is an example, it didn't happen. It will never happen with me. He comes, he said to me, okay, ma'am, he gives me the literature review at the beginning, and after he disappears for a year. And after he comes back with a full thesis, what does it mean, this? If I ask him, what is your research process? What did you do to arrive to this full thesis? So this is not honesty. After, we have another misleading ones when the researcher didn't like his findings. We have many researchers who don't like their findings. So they try to go and bring other findings and include them in the research. So this is not on, it's unbiased. So which means you want to do research and you decided to have these findings. No. You have to accept what you are getting. Now, because you have, believe me, I have been in education and in conducting research with students for many years. I won't say how many, because you will guess my age after. But it was really very, very interesting. For example, once we jump now to the ethics area, and we have the misconduct. About a few years ago, once at the beginning of internet, one of my teachers came to see me, and she told me, I have 5 students, they plagiarized the papers completely. You see, before internet, we were not aware of that many. Maybe we had plagiarism, we could catch them, but not at this rate nowadays. So I called the students to my office. I told them, you plagiarized. And they told me, no. I said, yes, it's not your work. He said to me, I typed it. It's my work. You see, for example, for him, one of them, he said, I typed it. And he agreed that it's not his intellectual work, but this is plagiarism. I'm sorry. And he didn't understand it. We cannot blame him because he didn't know. Now he will know. For example, when we have fabrication of data, you have a very good example lately with the Lancet magazine, where they fabricated a data and they fabricated results, and after they send their excuses. You see, so even in magazines, we can find this kind of misconduct. We have to be careful about it. Why in magazines nowadays we find this kind of misconducts? Because of this intelligence, artificial intelligence. We have this big data. We can get anything we want, and that will falsification will falsify the results of the research, which is not ethical. But if we have a law that we cannot falsify, so it will become legal. You see, it depends upon the countries and upon the laws in your country. Sometimes it remains unethical, sometimes it becomes illegal. After we have also another kind of plagiarism, it's or falsification or fabrication also altogether, when you have a student going and getting a paper in another language and translating it to the language required by the university. This is also unethical, completely unethical. Maybe he will tell me after, oh, but I translated it. You see, but even if you translate, you have to ask for permission of the author. That's also, sometimes people, they don't understand that. Also, what I wanted to say is that we need accuracy in our research. Otherwise, what for doing a research if it's not accurate? It's no use. So we need accuracy. After we go to the second point, which is the collaboration issues. Collaboration issues, for example, in a scientific lab, you are a PhD candidate and you have to do some scientific experiment, but you are helped by the lab director, by your own director, by the technicians, by everybody. So do they make them authors? So here sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes they say, yeah, it makes them feel. No, it doesn't. It's his work. It's his analysis. It's his interpretation, the student. So, but in the acknowledgement page, he has to include all these people who helped in working with him. So also, I have another example with one of my students and teachers. He was a PhD student and he was working with his advisor, and the advisor was very active. So he asked him to do more and more articles to be able to publish. So they started publishing articles, around 5 or 6, published together, co-authoring. And at the end, the student finished his thesis, he defended it. And 2 months later, I found a book written by the advisor. Half of the materials come from the student's thesis. The student knew about it. So he contacted me. He said to me, oh, I have to sue this teacher. But you know, we need documentation. In every lawsuit, we need documentation. Do we have proof? But this teacher signed many of the information, many of the articles in co-authoring. And he acknowledged in his book the student. You see, so here it was really a very big issue. The lawyer, of course, he wanted to take this case up to tribunal because it will make him gaining more money. And the student, he was hesitant, and the teacher. So at this point, I think they have to come into collaboration or friendly settlement. We'll see. So it's not finished yet, but it's like a collaboration issue. After we have the editing and review, why I am adding this? Because once you write a thesis, you need to edit, and someone to edit or to review, and especially when you are not, it's not your mother tongue, the university language, you need someone to correct. So here we are, you give it to someone, and this someone, the editor, the reviewer, is reading, and he realizes that it can help his research as well. Will he take this information without telling you? This is unethical. Will he use it for his own interest? Also, he has to ask you. So this is also another issue when intellectual property comes, and when students help a professor. We have all these cases. Why I am adding them? Because I experienced this. When you have a student doing all the work for his teacher, and or the professor, and after, but the student cannot, and he cannot say, it's my work. He helped, but who did the interpretation and the analysis? The professor at the end of the day. But ethically speaking, the professors should mention the work of his students. It's a minimum recognition for the students as well. Because, once the students feel that they are working for nothing, I'm not saying monetary. No, we leave this. We are still in research, moral research. At least acknowledging that these students helped him in realizing and in finalizing his study. Now, okay, we come to conflict of interest, conflict of duties or obligation. Why I'm talking about this? Because I don't know if you are facing the same in India, but here we faced, especially with the COVID-19 and all the doctors coming to the television, talking about this or other treatment or vaccine or whatever. And at the end of the day, we understood that they are getting money from many pharmaceutical industries. So here it's not illegal. We have to understand that it's not illegal. They can get money from, because the laboratories are paying them to do the research for them. That's not an issue at all. But nobody mentioned that they were getting money from these laboratories, and they were coming to the television to say that this treatment is better and the other treatment is better. And so here it's a conflict of interest. It's unethical. We have to mention. You see, once you mention something, ethics is respected. But if you hide, here we can start thinking, why are we hiding? Why this guy or the other is hiding what is being paid or not? And also, once a student who is getting grant to do a research for a funding institution, so how is he for example, he will think that if he has negative points, he won't get another grant for. You see, this is also another conflict of interest. So we have to be careful. It's not illegal to get funding. It's even more than legal, no problem. But we have to mention it each time we are working on research. That's it. As simple as that. If you don't mention it here, we start. Even we can trust you. It's not, when you don't mention, we don't trust anymore. And if you mention, we trust, even if your research, it's not correct. You see, here it's another trickiness that you have to mention anyway. After we have the duties, for example, you have a teacher, a professor, working for a university and also doing a research work for another funding institution or teaching in another institution. It's a conflict of duties as well. So if you are accepted to do a research for a funding institution or you are accepted to teach in another institution, you have to inform your current institution. It's very important. It's a minimum ethical. You see, it's important. And also now that we go to the human and animal research. It's a big dilemma because many laboratories, many companies, many cosmetics, they all say now, no, we don't do experiments on animals. Okay, but what do? How do you know whether this product is good or is bad or is efficient? So now it's a dilemma, but sometimes they accept the human experimentations when there is no harm, there is no distress, whereas you see it's they do. But to come to the human testing, it's also another very important point, because they used to say you have to test on animals before testing on human. But if you can't test on animals, you can test on human. What's happening now, to be more ethical than the ethics, they do give money to some target people to try to test this product, this I know one of the cosmetics here, they give like a salary for 1 year for a woman to go and test. So here we are also, I don't know if it's, some people, they think it's unethical, because who will be going to do these tests? Either unemployed, who don't have money, or people who, the poor. See, but is it unethical? If we are doing something good and if we have their consent, it's not anymore unethical, because they have to have their consent. Of course, without manipulating. We should have the consent of person without manipulating. Sometimes people say, you are very utopic. No, it's not utopic. They are rules. We cannot start making experiments on people for the fun of making experience because it's convenient for us. No, they have to show them what's happening. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, we have to be really truthful. And why are we doing this this experiment? And that's how things will be done, and it will be more ethical than ethic. But this is it, and we talk about this, and after we have the Nuremberg Code, which was made for the human experiments. And I put the 10 articles. The first article was very long. I cut it short. So here it is. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential, of course. Of course, if we are testing a medicine or cosmetics or food, we need human testing, but in an ethical way. As I said, consent, explanation, where this research is going, and what results are we expecting. They have to know everything and sign after this. If it's not done, that's not a research. And for a student, coming back to students, if you have a student, if you are academicians and you have students to direct, they have to show you that they got the consent when they do their research. If they don't show you, it means they didn't get the consent. You see, we need documentation. Documentation, always. We have to ask for documentation, what they are doing during the research process. So here at the Nuremberg, this means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent. Here too, you cannot ask someone who is maybe dying or who is insane or whatever, and he doesn't understand anything what you're doing, to ask him for his consent and put that he did the research. That's not ethical at all. It's even almost illegal. And also, what I can say also, when you have researchers filling themselves their questionnaire because they were getting money per number of questionnaires, that's really also really pathetic, to pay someone on the numbers of questionnaire. Which means we are falsifying our research. So now let's continue the Article 1. Legal capacity to give consent should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any elements of force, fraud or deceit or constraint, duress or constraint, whatever, overreaching or their ulterior form of constraints or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved. You see, so Nuremberg, at least in this code, they put some points for the researcher, and I am sure all researchers have this Nuremberg code because it's the Bible of the ethics in research. You see, for example, this is the Bible in ethics and research. Some others, they have other Bibles in their countries, but this is at least more complete, and we can really rely on that. The second one, the experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results. You see, fruitful result, which means also accurate results. We need accurate results, because if we don't have accurate results, we cannot move forward. They have to understand this, the researchers. Why are we doing research? It's to improve, not to go backward. So when we do a research, we have to make sure that this research is correct. And here it's the second article. The experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results for the good of society, and procurable by other methods or means of study, and not random and unnecessary in nature. So we have to go really straight to our aim, that if we want truthful research, accurate research, we need accurate results, we need accurate research. The experiment, number 3, the experiment should be designed and based on the results of animal experimentations. You see, so here in this article, they said should be designed and based on animal before. Now we are having lots of minority groups who are preventing the science to test on animals, which is, we have to be kind to animals, we have to be kind to human as well. So when we are kind to animals, we are kind to human. If you're not kind to animals, you can't be kind to human. You see, so it's a catch-22 anyway. We have to be kind, full stop, to everybody. So it's the results of animal experiment and the knowledge of the natural history of the disease or other problems under study, and the anticipated results will justify the performance of the experiment. Because you see, the aim is to try to experiment on animals and after experiment on a human being. So when you are kind to animals, you will be definitely kind to human beings. Number 4, the experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessarily physical and mental suffering. You see, always, we cannot let our sample suffer or injured. We cannot. That's not ethical at all. If we want to do research, we want to have it done correctly and with all the norms, moral norms. It's important. Number 5, no experiment should be conducted where there is a priori reason to believe that death or disabling injury will occur. So here also, if you really feel it's dangerous and it will create more injuries than before, so you have to stop. And also, I forgot to say that the participants can stop the research anytime he wants. If he feels that it's unbearable to him, he cannot continue the research, he has to stop it. And also the researcher has to accept. The degree of risk to be taken should never, number 6. The degree of risk to be taken should never exceed that determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. See, sometimes you have experiments which sometimes the risk you're taking, they are also more important than the results you are going to get. So it's not, we shouldn't go ahead with it. Number 7, proper preparations should be made and adequate facilities provided to protect the experimental subject against even remote possibilities of injuries, disability, or death. Here, it's almost the same, that we have to respect with whom we are working, human or animals, everybody. And number 8, the experiment should be conducted only by scientifically qualified persons. If he is not qualified, he shouldn't undertake the research. We need really qualified people. And number 9, during the course of the experiment, the human subject should be at liberty to bring the experiments to an end. Here, number 9, that's it. And if it has reached a physical or mental status where continuation of the experiments seems to be impossible or unbearable anymore. So here we have the right to stop it. And number 10, and last, during the course of the experiment, the scientist in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment at any stage. Yeah, if you are a good researcher, you have to follow steps, of course, but also while following steps, you can say maybe after step 2, we will stop it. What we will learn from after step 2, after step 3, what would we learn from after step 3, 4, 5, like this. At least if you stop the study before your maybe 10 steps, at least you can have something from this research, because research is costly. We cannot start after undertaking research and at the end of the day we have nothing. With all the money you are going to pay for a good research, when we do academic research, also we have some especially if they are in science, they have to be funded to have a good research as well. But when you are in social science, it's less costly, but more costly in your time. You work, you travel, you interview, it is time costly as well. It's not only, we're not going only to talk about money, but we have to talk about our time, our quality time. And it's important for a researcher to get something, even if he is forced to stop before the end stage. So here also it's another problem. So this is the Nuremberg is the Bible for research, especially scientific research, human experimentation, and of course animal experimentation. Because now we have the animals, they are a living part. They are not a wall, they are living. If you feel you are going to hurt an animal, which means you can hurt anybody. So that's why we have to be careful when we do research. As I said, it's very tricky with the rules, because sometimes you have very little guidance with ethics and legal. It's not always clear, but the clearest thing in it is when it's legal, it's by law of the government of your country. And when it's ethical, it's your own morale and it's your own principles. We have principles. Everybody has his principles, maybe different from one to another, but we have principles. And learning about research ethics can't motivate people sometimes. When they start seeing all the obstacles, it won't motivate them. But you see, it won't make you a good person or a right person or whatever, but it makes your research right. And that's what we are interested in. We are interested in a good quality research. So if we start playing around with unethical principles, the research won't be accurate and it won't help for the future. So it's important. You see, I'm doing nowadays a research on human rights and artificial intelligence. Are they compatible? You can't believe it. I'll be doing a webinar on it on my school platform in September. I think it will be ready. But I'm telling you, many things I don't like, but I have to take them. It's for my research. If I want to have a credible research, we have to accept, even if we don't like it. Now, as a conclusion, before listening to your questions, or you can always send me questions by email. Dr. Vika will tell me if she accepts or not. But only as a conclusion now, research ethics is important. It doesn't make us a honest man, but it makes our research reliable. Here, as I already said, research which involves human experiment, it should be ethical, that's for sure. And particularly research that deal with weak or vulnerable people, especially if they are not in their full brain or whatever. You see, sometimes they play with the mentally handicapped people, and that's not fair. And that we need to open our eyes more and more. Research should respect the participants' mental condition, ensure that they are receiving their consent and their privacy to avoid future challenges. So here we are, and thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open to questions now.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Soha. It was indeed a very interesting session, and very rightly said by you that ethics are a guide to morale. And I completely agree with you in this aspect, and I'm sure the participants also. So with this, ma'am, if you allow, can I take up the questions now from the chat box? Can I take the questions now, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, right. Ma'am, there is a question which says that if I put the definition of a given word directly in a research by acknowledging the source, can it be considered as plagiarism? As most
No.
of the time, plagiarism checker software consider it as plagiarized.
Exactly. Here I didn't talk about the percentage of plagiarism. Usually when I put a paper of my students on a plagiarism software, I remove all the appendixes and the bibliography, whatever. But of course, we allow up to 9% because sometimes students put citations. And when they put the reference of the citation, it's fine. It's not plagiarism. It's, but we shouldn't put all our papers as citations. You see, that's why we allow to 5 to 9%. And also, I want to tell the students or the teachers who are listening to me that a PhD, especially for the PhD teachers, they have to understand the students. It's not only remuneration of definition, or they need to give their own analysis, their own work. It's very important. But it's not plagiarism, no.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, there is another question by Miss Ankita Rajdev, and she wants to understand that as you have mentioned that research is not able to complete, the researcher must add at least something. So how can we add something even if the research is not completed?
So thank you for the question. You see, on a research, we put a process on a research. And when we do a process, a good researcher who thinks really onward, they have to understand maybe sometimes he will have to stop the research after the third step or the second step or whatever. And here they have to realize what will be the output after each step. Because many times researchers don't have enough funds and they have to stop it before the research. I don't know, maybe I hope for you all, you have the funds till the end, but sometimes it has to stop because they don't have funds anymore.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we have another question. Says that, can you mention few examples on ethical issues being encountered?
We have many. For example, as I said, for this magazines, sometimes they put they publish bad, wrong information. So this is unethical, not illegal, it seems, because I don't know why it's not illegal. Sometimes it's tricky. For example, also, as I mentioned, my student and his teacher, also, it was unethical from the teacher, but it wasn't illegal because we didn't go to legal issues. So we have also, does she want to know more about scientific research or like a student research with a teacher?
That I hope I would request him to clarify in that regard. And meanwhile, we may take up the next question if you allow.
Okay, no problem.
Right. Ma'am, there is another question from Professor Eleki, and he wants to understand that if you could bring little more clarity to him on conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest, yes. Conflict of interest is especially when someone is getting money from a funding institution and he keeps saying really that this product from the funding institution is good, the best, which maybe sometimes it's not, maybe sometimes he says wrong, maybe sometimes he says right, I don't know. But here it becomes automatic conflict of interest because he is funded from this company. And also we have another kind of conflict of interest when you give grants to students to complete their PhD, and also for when they have grants from this, so they have to be kind to their funder. So it will become a conflict of interest. If you don't want to have a conflict of interest, finance your own research. You will be better off.
Right.
But we can't, not always. I understand.
I completely agree, ma'am. Ma'am, there is another question from Miss Seema Girdhar. She wants to understand that as there is a very low interest of respondents while filling up questionnaire, and that becomes a big challenge. So how to deal with this?
Yeah, that's another. This is really very important, and I think I don't know. He's or she's a student. I don't know. The problem is because of the number of questionnaires we are receiving. It's I don't know what happened to my screen here.
Are you able to see us, ma'am?
No, you disappeared. Now, yes. I don't know what happened. Sorry. So for these questionnaires, yes, that's true. We don't have. That's why we shouldn't get the mail. I think mail now we stopped sending questionnaires by mail because all the questionnaires went to the dustbin, and also the questionnaires by email, they are straight to the junk box. So that's why what's happening now here in France, what they are doing, they are contacting by phone to do, so people, if they reply, they reply, they don't reply, they don't reply. And what they do, they start offering incentives to the participants. And this sometimes it can, the results were inaccurate at the end of the day because they are getting some incentives. But to be honest, to be able to push people to answer, you have to show them the advantage of this research and what will be, what they will be getting out of it. Because if you are asking them, they are your target, which means they will be benefiting from your research. So we have to be more concise. Don't put questionnaires of many pages because nobody will follow. At least 1 page, maximum 10 questions, small, concise explanation, and you will see you will have a difference in responses.
Right, ma'am. And what I've understood with this is that if we are able to set our research objectives and research outcomes which are helpful for society at large or for the participants who are filling up that questionnaire, I hope that can bring up some motivation for them to fill up that questionnaire.
Be concise, because if you have long questionnaires, to be honest, I will not complete a long questionnaires. I will complete a questionnaire between 5 and 10 maximum. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, there is another question from Professor Zumismita, and understand that while writing a research proposal, is it necessary to add literature review and all, or should we directly hit the topic?
Usually when I ask the students to write research proposals, I ask them to put the research process at the beginning. It may change after, because we never know what will happen with the time, but usually I ask them to have a research proposal really very complete. I want to see how the students is going to work. That's it. It may change after, but for the students to show his goodwill. That's it.
Right. Ma'am, there is I hope participants are very enthusiastically participating and were listening to you, as I could see many questions popping up in the chat box. There is another question from Mr. Mandal, and he wants to understand that many times the answers to the questionnaire are also wrong.
Yeah.
So how will the researchers deal with this?
So here, for example, when we see that there is a contradictory answers in the same questionnaire, throw it. Because sometimes, listen, if I do a questionnaire on on this beer stuff. Huh? And after he asked me, did you like the beer? I say no. So here, I think the questionnaire should be stopped. But sometimes when they say yes, and after they put some, because we try to keep some subjective answers, not only objective, because some subjective answers will give us some more information. And it's more difficult to analyze, I agree, but at least to give us more information and to give us an idea whether it's the same person who filled the questionnaire. Because sometimes we have problems in contradiction in the same questionnaire because of the unethical researchers. That's why I'm saying the researchers should be ethical and accurate. If they are not accurate. So this, for example, a contradictory questionnaire should go to the dustbin right away. Don't even bother wasting your time.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, though I understand that you've been speaking for long, but if you allow, can I take 1 or 2 questions more?
Yes, of course.
Right. Ma'am, there is a question from Professor Ghosal, and he wants to understand that for citation, it is required to follow the chronological order?
Yes. It depends upon the university as well. What is your rules and regulations? But it's better to follow the chronological order, yes.
Right. Ma'am, there is a question from Mr. Pankaj Agarwal, and he wants to understand that is it fine to get responses to questionnaire on social media or email, etc., or personal contact is better?
Personal contact?
Yeah, I hope he wants to understand that maybe over the phone he could take the responses.
If they call, but of course it's not a personal number. It has to be professional, because after he will have many calls. Yes. If but he has to be sure that the participants is the right person. That's it as well. But if he is calling him or her, and he knows that it's the right participant, yes.
Right. Ma'am, there is a question from Ms. Deepa Shri Chatterjee. She wants to understand that it takes a lot of time for journals to give acceptance. Is giving the same paper at multiple journals for review is illegal or unethical?
No, it's not illegal at all, because you need to publish your paper, yes or no? So you need to be published. So you try. It's even, I think it's heroic to try to publish your paper.
Right.
No, it's not illegal. No.
Right. Ma'am, we were taking the question of plagiarism, and the same participants now wants to say that he was earlier a lecturer, but now he is a PhD student. And while he is advising his students, most of the time they come up with cooked data or fabricated data. So how can we manage this issue? And if you have experienced such, then how you have handled it?
Fabricated data, to be honest, my students, what I faced in the past few years is it's like fabricated thesis. They took it from another language and translated it into French or English. But fabricated data, here it's a bit difficult to catch it so far. I didn't have any fabricated data so far. Only this. I realized that this thesis, it's not written by the student, because when he or she came, because it's many, not 1 or 2, to the oral defense, they failed because they were at all prepared, not at all. And they didn't know, even when we told them, page this, you cited this, they said, oh, really? Yeah, you see, they didn't even read what they didn't write. You see, so here we quote them like this, but fabricated data, I never faced. But this is a good question. I will try to find out for the participant.
All right.
That's a good question. Thank you. You see, we learn every day. Even I learn from my students every day.
Very true, ma'am. It's a mutual learning and continual learning process.
Education is the most wonderful. I think I love it. That's why I'm in.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Great teachers are always very much passionate about their profession and about education. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
with this, I hope I have taken up almost all the question. I hope there is one last question about from Mr. Rajput, and he wants to say that if editor don't really about publication, then contacting with him is right or wrong?
No, editors, they only work on your work, on your narrative only. They don't work on sources or whatever. No, only on your narrative. That's what was the question. I think I understood it.
Yes, this is what I also understood from his language.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I hope that
Yeah.
right. With this, I hope, ma'am, I have taken up now all the questions from the chat box. It was
Thank you.
a wonderful session, very enriching, interesting. Everybody was completely glued up to the screen for the entire session. So
Thank you.
before we conclude this last day of the session, I would request our Director Management, ma'am, to propose the vote of thanks to Dr. Soha. Over to you, Director, ma'am. Director, ma'am.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. You're audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah, Dr. Soha. Yeah, it was a wonderful session. I was listening to you. Ethics were perfectly understood, I think, by the faculty, and everybody will ensure now that proper ethics will be followed. You said rightly that ethics is a guide to morale, because it's always the morals which carry with you, because there is a regulatory body which compels you to follow, but there is an ethics which is within. Okay, very difficult to follow, but I think yes, we have to follow this, and it was indeed a wonderful session. We thank you for sparing your time and enlightening the delegates for your wonderful deliberations, and thanks once again for sparing your time. We would not present you a class, in a virtual form. So I would request Professor Yashna to take these proceedings further and have a formal vote of thanks.
Sure.
Over to you, Professor Yashna.
Yes, thank you so much, Director ma'am. Dr. Soha, on behalf of I.T.S Parivar, I would like to express our sincere gratitude and thanks for accepting our invitation and being part of this very wonderful e-IFTP. And we present you here the virtual plaque, and we will definitely mailing you the same, but kindly accept it as a token of respect and gratitude.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very, very, very happy, very honored.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and for your session. We indeed had a great experience of talking to you and discussing the ethics in research with you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. And have a nice week. I don't know if it's your weekend, but so have a nice day.
Right, ma'am.
Okay. Same to you. Enjoy your weekend, Professor Soha. And we will look forward for further collaborations. And I invite you to come to India once this pandemic is over. Okay? And we would love to host you at campus.
Thank you.
So stay safe.
Be safe.
Stay healthy, and take care of yourself. Okay?
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Dr. Soha. Right.
Bye. Namaste.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Soha. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this very enriching, very power-packed sessions during this entire 5-day e-IFDP. I'm sure you all would have enjoyed, and we all had a very great mutual learning process during this journey. Dr. Parul has already shared the feedback link for the Facebook and Google reviews. I would request all our enthusiastic participants who've been with us throughout this journey to please share their valuable feedback on this Google and Facebook link which has been provided to you. You shall be receiving the feedback link also. I hope Dr. Puneet has already given the feedback link as well in the chat box. You have to fill up the feedback through that link, and then how you would be receiving your e-certificate for the program. I, Yachna Malhotra, on behalf of I.T.S Parivar, take this opportunity to thank all of you for your enthusiastic participation and your deliberation and your journey with us throughout this 5-day IEFTP. We are also sincerely thankful to our management for endorsing their trust in us for keeping events like this. We are sincerely thankful to our Director Management, ma'am, Dr. Vidya Sekhri, for sowing this seed of I.F.D.P. and actually keeping a vision of excellence in research and enabling wonderful publications ahead. So thank you so much, ma'am, for showing us that vision of yours. We are once again sincerely thankful to all our eminent and expert speakers of the 5-day International e-FDP program for taking out their valuable time and share their expertise with all of us. I understand that there were time differences for them. We were working on different time zones, but they never made us felt and realized that kind of energy going down. They were always eager, enthusiastic to share their expertise with us. A big thanks to the organizing team as well for well crafting and executing this IEFTP. This has helped each one of us in enriching us intellectually and making us enable to produce better research in the future. So with this, I, Yachna Malhotra, once again, thanks all our wonderful participants of this IEFDP. I am sure you all have enjoyed this program, and I also had a wonderful experience of interacting and speaking with you. Through your questions in the chat box, we also go for a mutual learning process. So thank you once again. Thank you all. Thanks to the technical team as well for their tireless for efforts and support during this 5-day program. Programs like this cannot be executed actually without the teamwork. So a big thanks to all the dear colleagues and respected colleagues for their support and guidance throughout the program. So with this, I hope all of you will be filling up the feedback on Facebook and Google, and will also be taking up your e-certificates from the feedback link, which has been already posted by Dr. Puneet in the chat box. So thank you so much to all of you. That's me, Yachna Malhotra, signing off from here. Have a great day. Stay connected with us. We have started a new journey now with you people today, and I'm sure with our connection in future, we will take this journey furthermore ahead. Thank you so much. Stay connected. Stay positive. Happy learning. Participants are requested that they can leave the meeting as we have concluded the last day of International e-FDP. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening. Hello, Yachna ma'am.
Yes, good evening, sir. Good evening.
I want to know, this is Professor Raghavendra, UG campus.
Yes, sir,
I
I
want to
can
know
recognize.
if we will be, yeah, how can we get the video of these recordings of the 5-day? I want to go through it again.
I think so. The
Will it be
organizing
possible to get the video?
right. So the organizing team shall be mailing it all the PPTs and videos to all the participants, and also the videos will be posted on our YouTube link as well. So you can access the videos from both YouTube as well as I hope you shall be receiving the PPT and videos on the mail as well. Right?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ashish sir, I think we should leave the meeting as participants are joining us.
Yes, might be better if even I.T.S faculty may leave the meeting.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
क्या कर